have a passion, hobby, or expertise and want to share it with the world, why not do a podcast? The Pod Station offers a wide range of packages to make this a reality, ranging from training and support for those who have no idea where to begin, to podcasters who just need somewhere to host their show. With prices starting at a mere £15 per month, you can now get involved in one of the fastest growing entertainment forms in the world without all the headaches. To find out more, visit thepodstation.co.uk/station-packages. And remember, those with passion, podcast. You're listening to the Business Spotlight, exclusively on the Pod Station.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Pod Station's Business Spotlight. My name's Mark, I'm a co-owner of the Pod Station, and if you're listening to this for the first time, I guess it would probably be helpful for me to explain roughly what it is that this show does. So the idea is that we take a business and an expert within a particular field. We interview them so they can give some information about what it is they do, why it's useful in the general world, and to provide you with some tips that will hopefully help, I don't know, whether it be make your life better or make your business a bit more efficient or profitable. So that's kind of what we do. Now, if you want to follow the show, you can subscribe on all of the major podcast platforms, so that would be the likes of Apple, Google, Spotify. If you just go on to thepodstation.co.uk, find the Business Spotlight tab, you'll find all of the links there to those platforms. If you want to give the Pod Station a follow, we're on all of the major platforms, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also listen to the show in full on YouTube. We haven't yet got to the stage where I feel comfortable exposing my face to the public, so it's just audio with a nice graphic on the front. But if ever you've seen a picture of me, you will probably be grateful that that is in fact the case. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest for today. I have the wonderful Helen Ball from Arbonne. How are you doing, Helen?
Hi Mark, I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be with you this morning.
So what are we going to be talking about today? And I suppose we should date stamp this to give some context to what it is we're probably going to be talking about, because otherwise, if you're listening to this in, and I'm going to say optimistically a few months' time, but probably maybe a year or two down the line, they might think we're an overly pessimistic bunch. But we are in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, which is causing murder on the globe as a whole. We're currently in about lockdown number 25, so we're all going stir crazy staring at the same four walls. So with the context of that, what is it we're going to be looking at and chatting about today?
So what I do is I help people to create more energy, vitality, and general health and well-being in their lives. And I think that's really important, more so now than ever before, because we are, as you say, we're all sitting at home doing not very much, staring at computer screens, feeling like we are definitely needing to socially distance from our fridge a little bit, as well as everybody else. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I do, and within that, how my gut health program supports people to create a more energetic lifestyle, can help with weight management and all sorts of things by focusing on the gut.
I mean, you've probably just described the vast majority of the population there with that, myself included, with being locked down. And certainly I'm a member of a gym because I need some of the equipment to exercise because I'm a broken person from many years of physical sports. And of course, the lockdown has had the gyms pretty much out of action for the majority of the time. So a lot of what you've just described is very much the challenges that I face, and I suspect a lot of people face. I suppose people's work-life balance, people's physical exercise to sitting sedentary has gone completely out of the window.
Yeah, I think it's brought a lot of things to the forefront. The fact that we really have to value our health from both a physical and a mental perspective. And I think that for me has been probably the biggest thing that I've seen people's eyes open to, that our mental well-being is just as important as our physical well-being. And that's where the knowledge of gut health and how that is really linked to our mental health has been a really key thing for me over this period of time. So I'm lucky enough to have been introduced to a lot of self-development, a lot of personal growth through the last couple of years. But I think over the last 9 to 12 months, it's really come to fruition, and I have been able to use those tools, and it's made me really passionate to help other people to do that as well.
Explain to me how you've ended up in this position, because I don't know how someone finds themselves with this sort of arena.
So my story is that I had very traditional early life. I went to university and I did an art degree, which wasn't very vocational, but I loved it. And I fell into traditional retail, in the visual side of retail. And I loved my job, was with a big corporate company, and the traditional route, I worked my way up the ladder, was successful. But after 18 years of working in that corporate environment, I realized that actually I was a bit stuck, and I felt more trapped than I ever had. And working 60-hour weeks and feeling a lot of stress and pressure really started to take its toll on me. And I think it was only when I had my daughter that I realized there's got to be more to life. So I started looking for something else, but I had no idea what it was I wanted to do. And I'm sure anybody listening to this that's ever had a long career in one place will kind of recognize and understand what I'm saying when I say you get comfortably uncomfortable. And it was that kind of security that wasn't actually that secure anymore, because we all know that the position that retail's in at the moment, especially the high street. So I got to a point where I just needed something else, and at that point I discovered the Arbonne business opportunity. And I was interested in health and wellness because I was at such a low point, I think. I was desperately searching for something that could increase my energy, could give me more health. My diet wasn't in a great place because, again, I was so busy, and I didn't know what I know now about how easily you can really look after yourself, and particularly your gut. So that's kind of how I came into it. And over the last 2 years, so that was 2 years ago, I started my business. And then over the last 2 years, I've transformed significantly, both from a health point of view and from a personal growth point of view. And that's all thanks to Arbonne and the business. And it's led me into other things as well. So I actually left my corporate job 12 months ago, just before the pandemic began, which you could say is good or bad timing. And I started another business, quite unrelated to Arbonne, but what it's done for me is it's opened my eyes. And I think there's a mixture of, from a health point of view, but also from a business and a career point of view. I've realized there's so much more out there, and there is a different way to earn money other than just working your fingers to the bone for someone else.
I mean, it's a wonderfully brave thing to do. As you just mentioned, there is that danger that people find themselves just on that track and they daren't get off, even though they know they hate being on that track. So what kind of things enabled you to make that change? Was it the kind of stuff that you're now doing insofar as the Arbonne? And did you start with the mental recovery approach or the physical recovery approach, or are they very much hand in hand? And how does that tie into what you do now?
So I think they very much are hand in hand, to be honest. And like I say, the gut is linked to the brain, and if people want some more information about that, I could talk all day about gut health and how it can impact your mental health. But I honestly think it starts from healing your gut. So that's obviously internally, but also working on that very holistic approach to health and wellness. So that's where I started, because it was what I needed. And I guess I took the leap. I had to have a certain amount of bravery to do that. But I think sometimes you can get to the lowest ebb, where you just think, oh, it's now or never. I've got to do something, or I'm going to be here till I retire, which will probably be 85 the way things are going. So that was why I took the leap. But I suppose in terms of my confidence and how much I've grown, that is down to the culture within Arbonne, I would say. So it's very, very different from anything I'd ever experienced before in the corporate world. It's very much about supporting everybody, being inspired, being lifted up, and just having loads of fun, which is something that it just was a bit alien to me when it came to making money. I was, brought up thinking that making money was hard work, and that actually if you weren't working hard, then you weren't going to get anywhere. But actually that doesn't have to be the way. So yeah, I feel quite passionately about helping other people to realize that as well. And whatever that is that people want to do, it doesn't have to be a online business. It doesn't have to be health and wellness. It can be anything. But there's something about supporting people to realize their potential and realize that actually they can do anything with their lives, and don't try not to feel trapped and kind of pigeonholed into one particular way of doing things.
People will probably crucify me if I don't touch back on this. So when you say that the gut and the brain are linked and that you could talk about it forever, elaborate on that, because people are thinking, okay, I'm interested in this, because as you mentioned earlier, people's diets have probably gone down the Swanee, largely due to the fact that they get out of the habits that they might have done. Exercise levels will have dropped. Certainly the lockdowns that happened both pre and post Christmas 2020, whereas when the first lockdown was in place in the summer, there was definitely that natural inclination to go out there because it was gorgeous, it was warm, you would want to go outside, as opposed to when it's cold, wet, miserable, and you've got your early dark evenings. It's not quite the same, is it? So explain that, fix us all.
Well, what I've learned is that actually what serves us is not calorie counting, not weighing ourselves, not depriving ourselves, no starvation, no fasting, nothing like that is required. And, I'd spent a long time, I've always fluctuated weight-wise. I've never been what I would call a healthy eater. I've always done quite fad things to lose weight ultimately, and then I put the weight back on and then I'd lose it again, and a bit of a vicious circle. And all the while I was damaging my gut more and more, because I wasn't doing the right things for my health. I was doing it for weight. So what we do with the program is we focus on whole food eating, and we avoid inflammatory foods that are going to irritate our gut. So all you have to do really to heal your gut is press pause on inflammatory foods. And that, some people think that sounds really scary, but actually with a program like that we have within Arbonne, you are just adding in masses of other nutrition. So we focus on whole food eating. We have incredible support when it comes to recipes, snack recipes, all sorts of nutritional education. What you learn through doing the program will serve you for life. And it's called the 30 Days to Healthy Living and Beyond program. And it is more about setting sustainable, healthy habits than it is a fad. And, quick fix. It's not a quick fix. You're going to press pause for 30 days and take away some of those inflammatory foods. But what you will learn through that is what does and doesn't serve you. And our gut is really complex. We have this complex microbiome in our gut. And if that is out of balance, all sorts of things go wrong. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is that actually some things outwardly appear that you wouldn't necessarily put down to being anything to do with your gut, because it's also linked. Like it's like the second brain. And in fact, I think it's the first brain. So if something appears on your skin, that's ultimately going to be something to do with your gut. And that had never, ever occurred to me before. And things like IBS and, all sorts of digestive issues are very much linked to the brain and your mental state. So anxiety causes IBS causes anxiety. It's a vicious circle. There is a really massive long nerve that runs from the gut to the brain called the vagus nerve, and there are it's transmitting all the time messages back and to. So that is how linked it is. And really, it's simple when you know. It's kind of, that's what I've realised, that before I knew what it was that wasn't serving me, I was continuing to do that. So we have an analogy within Arbonne of a bathtub. So if the plug isn't in your bath and the drain's not blocked, the water can flow in, flow out perfectly fine. But the problem is what we're putting in can sometimes clog the drain. And if your bath starts to overflow, what would you do? Would you turn the tap off, or would you run and get a mop? And generally what we do as a society is we go and get a mop because we go to the doctor for a pill. We just try and fix the symptom rather than the cause. But actually, if you just do the sensible thing, which is to turn the tap off, wait and unplug the drain, and then turn the tap on a little bit slower, then you will have a fully functioning system. It's a lot to do with the immune system as well. Honestly, I could go on for days.
No, it's fascinating to hear. People don't quite realise that the body, I guess, is a machine. It's a bit like your car. If you put the wrong fuel in your car breaks, and there isn't much more to it than that. There's the inner workings of the engine, and there might be parts that break within that engine. Sometimes you can't do anything about it, but largely it comes down to fundamentals such as those you've just described.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I wasn't unhealthy, as it were. I was, but I wasn't riddled with disease. There wasn't anything outwardly that was showing. But the difference in me from healing my gut has been significant in that I've got more energy. My sleep is more restorative because I'm not having to work so hard at digesting all those inflammatory foods all the time. And my skin is clearer and brighter. There's all sorts of benefits just for anybody, but specifically for people who have got issues. People are amazed at the difference that this makes to you. And Hippocrates said all the disease starts in the gut, and I truly believe that we are what we eat. And if we want to stay healthy, we want to live a long, happy life, then we need to be more conscious about what we're putting in. And it's not about being a saint. Like I have treats, I honestly do, but 80% of the time I try and be very, very mindful of what I'm eating and that I'm eating the foods that serve me.
It's all about moderation, I guess, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's where these bad things don't work, because you're depriving yourself, and ultimately that's going to mess with your brain. That's going to mess with your mental attachment to food. And I feel that what we teach and coach is a really healthy relationship with food.
So what kind of things do you do? How do you help people to implement the things you've just mentioned?
So we have the Facebook group. So you are added into this Facebook group for the month, and you are given masses of support. You're given education every single day, group accountability. When you're in a group of people doing all the same thing together, there is something very powerful about that. Lots of sharing, lots of collaborating, and that group then stays open for life. So you have that as a resource to be able to refer back to it and use the recipes, use the shopping lists, and ask us questions as well. So we're a group of consultants who run the group together, and we've all got different expertise. We've got nutritionists, we've got PTs, we've got doctors, we've got everybody, all types of people that are there to support all of our clients. And that's how we work within Arbonne. That is our culture. We all support everybody regardless of who's client.
And you also get a pack of nutrition. So one of the things that I think people find hardest about, eliminating some of these things is that they don't know what to have instead. They don't know the alternatives, and they need that guidance. And they also need something simple and easy. Our programs are brilliant for busy people. We're all busy, and we know that we've not got loads of time to be faffing about in the kitchen. All of our recipes are designed to be cooked in batches, so you can freeze them. So you can basically batch cook for the week, put it in your freezer, bish bash bosh. You've got no temptation to be reaching for the stuff that's not so good for us. In terms of our pack of nutrition, we have our biggest thing, I suppose, is our protein. So Arbonne is a vegan, gluten-free brand, so we have an incredible protein which is made from pea, rice and cranberry protein, and doesn't contain whey, which typically can be quite hard to digest, and it has 20 essential nutrients and vitamins in there as well. So that kind of forms a big part of what we do, because we encourage people to have whole food smoothie in the morning with our protein, adding in loads of amazing frozen fruits and veggies and a good fat and nut butter or nut milks, things like that. But there's all sorts of other things that come with that pack. The other thing that people tend to be quite daunted by is eliminating caffeine in the form of tea and coffee. And there are some people that say I just couldn't not have my coffee in the morning, and that's totally fine. We are big believers in something is better than nothing. So if you're going to join us but you still want to have your coffee in the morning, you're not going to get the best results, but you can still do it, and avoiding all the other stuff is going to be brilliant for you. But what we do have is something called fizz sticks. Now these are incredible little sticks of energy in a natural form. So it's a powder you add to water, either hot or cold, and it is made up of freeze-dried green tea caffeine, chromium, loads of B vitamins, guarana, which is nature's Red Bull, and they are a brilliant alternative to coffee, tea, fizzy drinks, energy drinks, and I promise you they work better than any of those things. They give you a natural energy lift, brain focus, and you just feel like you can do anything when you've drunk one of those.
Again, I suppose it goes back to moderation. It's not the stopping of drinking coffee, it's the stopping of drinking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cups of coffee a day and having it before you go to bed and then not sleeping as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've just done, we've just completed the 30 days to healthy living and beyond in January. We started on the 4th of Jan, so yesterday was our last day, and the results have been fantastic. We had over 105 people in the group doing that with us in January, which, I think this January particularly was a tough one, because there was a lot of people who weren't considering doing anything remotely good for their health because of the situation we're in. It's tough, and I get that, I really do. But the people that did commit to doing that, and they did 30 days, we had people who drank 6-7 cups of coffee a day that are now not drinking any coffee. We've had people who literally couldn't live without a slice of toast in the morning, and actually they've fallen in love with the protein smoothies or the protein pancakes that we can make. There's all sorts of things, and it's just, they say 21 days to form a habit and 9 days to cement it. So that's your 30 days. And even if you take one thing away that you will continue to do, that is a massive win in my eyes.
Has this January been a quieter month for starting that sort of a programme and a life change than perhaps previous years, in so far as, because this January is such an unusual, normally everyone's New Year's resolutions start come January the 1st. You eat all the chocolate in the house before the 1st of January with the promise that January is going to be amazing. And obviously, I mean, I certainly notice it at the gym, where it's always ridiculously busy in January, and by the end of January it sort of tails back off to normal volumes of people. Has that been the case this time around? Because I mean, obviously the lockdown has curtailed massively the ability for people to get out and about, and I think certainly from a mental health perspective has probably given people a bit of a kick in for that kind of a motivation.
100%. I think it's been a very tricky one for so many people in so many ways. But I do think there are so many people out there that have different circumstances. So for some people, being at home and not having the temptation of going out to the pub to have a drink or to go out for a meal, or they may not be having as many takeaways, that kind of thing, is a big plus for them. And actually they realise now that they need to do it for their mental health more than anything, because everyone has different goals. For some people it's weight loss, for some people it's weight gain. We tailor the programme to whatever it is people need, but for some people it's very much just about that mental clarity and the energy. And so I think it's really, I would say we have been just as busy with the programme. It's been fantastic, actually. And I think there's always going to be people at different points. So there will have been people that would have considered it had it been a normal January, but didn't this time. But then on the flip side, there are people who wouldn't have considered it who have, because of the situation we're in. So I think it's been good. It's been really good, better than I expected, actually.
Oh, fab. What sort of routines would you recommend people to either do, whether it be just general routines or habits, and ones that are perhaps more specifically geared towards the kind of help you provide?
So one of the things that we do within the programme, and it's actually, we do offer this for free to anybody that is interested to do it, is something called the Miracle Morning, which some of the listeners may have heard of. It's an incredible book by a guy called Hal Elrod, and he came up with a morning routine that really served him in terms of getting him set up for the day, feeling motivated, touching all of those points on our mental health, and really feeling like by the time he'd done his routine, he was raring to go and the day was his. And, they say win the morning, win the day. And I'd heard about this and I read the book and I kind of was dipping in and out, doing a little bit myself. But really, something that we embrace massively within Arbonne is the power of doing things as a group. And so at the beginning of lockdown, I think it was number one, actually.
You lose track these days, don't we?
I know, yeah. We started to form this idea that we could do it together, and how powerful that would be, not only for accountability, but for supporting each other with, how we kind of utilise this routine that Hal Elrod's put into place. So basically, this is a routine that comprises silence in the form of meditation or visualization, affirmation, so positive affirmations, so telling yourself how blooming fantastic you are in all sorts of ways, and the ways that maybe you want to improve on. Visualization I mentioned, exercise. We don't actually do the exercise together, but that's something that we do kind of straight afterwards. And then reading, so self-development reading as part of that hour. So we do that every day between 6 and 7 in the morning on Zoom. And as a guest, all you do is you sit there and you listen, and you soak it all in. And we are basically following those principles for that hour in the morning between 6 and 7. You can have your video off, everyone's on mute anyway, you can have your video on if you want to, type away in the chat if you want to share anything, and we're basically guided. So a group of us host that every single day, 7 days a week, 6 a.m. till 7 a.m. And that, for me, as a group, we did it through the whole of the summer, and we're still doing it now. Some of us have done it every single day for like 175 days or something crazy. And I can honestly say the impact on me from a mental health point of view has been hugely significant. because by the time that hour is over, or we finish on a power tune as well, that is one of my favourite parts. So as the host, you get to choose the tune as well.
Right, okay. I was going to just say who gets to choose the music.
Yeah, the host. So the host chooses the meditation. They choose how we focus our gratitudes and our affirmations. And again, gratitude is so powerful. You cannot be fearful if you are in a state of gratitude. And that shift is something that I think has been, quite significant for people. There's a lot of fear out there, but actually there's a lot that we can be grateful for as well. So so I would welcome anybody who's interested in trying that out to come along for free. It's just a great way of connecting and feeling like you're part of something as well. I think there's a lot of loneliness at the moment, a lot of people living on their own, feeling not very connected. But we sometimes have 50, 60 people on there starting their day in the most positive way, and it's so powerful to see.
Absolutely. We try and give a few tips to people just to go away with that they might be able to do themselves. And have we got some tips you can perhaps provide before we give some information on how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I would say there are some really small healthy changes that people can make that can give a real impact. And I would say even if it was just what you have for breakfast, in terms of diet, thinking about, is that bowl of cereal or that slice of toast serving you? Does that make you feel energized and ready to do anything and win the day? And if it isn't doing that, then think about something different that you could have. There are so many different options. I'm a massive fan of protein. I wasn't 2 years ago. I thought protein was for bodybuilders, but actually it is such a fantastic way of getting masses of nutrients into you. If you get a good vegan protein, obviously I offer that, but a good vegan protein from anywhere, as long as it's not got whey in it, look at the amino acid score, and just think about all of the different things that you could do. You can make incredibly tasty things with that, so that's one little small change you could make. Maybe alternative pastas. So we all love pasta, but there are so many different alternatives out there to a gluten pasta. So not only gluten-free, but also pea pasta, chickpea pasta, red lentil pasta. There's all sorts of things that you can do. So that's something that we cover masses in the program, but it's just little things like that. They're not such a big deal, but they make a massive difference. Obviously, I've mentioned reading. I wasn't a reader until about 2 years ago, and I found self-development reading, which I think a lot of people have done over the last few months, and it's really helped me to stay away from screens. Moving away from the TV that can be so addictive during these times when we haven't got anything else to do. Get a good book, fill your brain with some positivity, and keep away from the negative social media and all of that stuff, because not that all social media is negative, that's not what I mean, but there is a lot of negativity out there if you could let it filtrate. And not only is what we put into our mouths really impacting us from a mental health point of view, but also what goes into our ears, and try and protect your energy from that negativity.
I mean, the wonders of technology are that you don't have to necessarily read your books these days. You can consume them audibly.
Yes.
And so whilst you're on a walk, you can be doing it, or if you can't sleep, or if you're doing something, you can have it going on in the background. So it doesn't have to be the traditional form of reading that perhaps some people don't either have the time or the energy. I know a lot of the books I consume now are audio as opposed to physical, because I spend all day looking at a screen, and I find it quite a challenge to have the energy to read physically at the end of the day, because my eyes are knackered, my brain's shot, and so I need an easier way to consume that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioning listening while walking is brilliant, because you're almost killing two birds with one stone. Then you're moving your body, which is so important for concentration and productivity. If you're working from home, it's so important to just get outside into nature, even if it's just in your garden, a little run around the garden, a walk around the garden, whatever it is. But you can listen to something at the same time, and if that's a positive audio, then yeah, you're winning.
And what about the mental aspect? I think one of the biggest challenges, certainly if you're feeling a bit fed up or in the dumps, or if this lockdown is particularly taking a negative impact on your well-being, how do you break that? How do you get that ball rolling? Because I tend to find that the healthy habits are a bit of a snowball effect, because once you start doing one thing, you start to feel the benefits, which kind of gives you either the motivation or gives you the energy to do the next thing, which then leads on to the next thing, and so on and so forth. So how do you break that duck? How do you get that ball rolling?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's tricky. You can get into these kind of downward spirals, but something that I think is really powerful to remember is that you've got the downward spiral, but you've also got the upward spiral, and to try to leap from the bottom of the downward spiral to the top of the upward spiral is just, it's probably unrealistic, and that can cause us to feel worse about ourselves because we can't make that leap. So it's small, tiny steps is really important, and that's what I would recommend. So even just getting out for 5 minutes on a slow walk, or switching one tiny thing for a healthier version, and not trying to see too far in the future, taking one day at a time. What can I do today that is better than I did yesterday? How can I be that little bit better than I was yesterday? And I think that is a really good way to break it down and make it feel less daunting. And again, that's something we encourage within our program. So we have options. We have a 10-day version, we have a 15-day version, we have a 30-day version, we have a light version. We have all sorts, because we want to be able to help as many people as possible. And everybody is at a different point. Everybody has got different issues, different things they're facing, different things they're tackling. So it's not one size fits all. It's absolutely, working with those individuals on how we can help, even just a tiny little bit.
I'm sure there'll be people sitting there thinking, that sounds amazing. How do I get in touch to get some help from Helen?
Oh, well, I have a Facebook page. I have a Facebook group. That's the main place you can find me, and where you get the most value, because that is called Holistic Healthy Living with Helen and Friends. And what that group does is it adds support and help for like-minded people who are wanting to create more holistic health in their life. And there are all sorts of different wellness professionals that come in and offer their services, offer free stuff, offer talks, offer advice, and it's just a beautiful community. So, and there's all sorts of information about the programs, about everything that we do within Arbonne in there. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with anybody who thinks I might be able to help them in any way. No big sales pitch. It literally is, if I think I can support you, I will. If it's not for you, then I'll try and help you in some other way to kind of reach some of your goals, or and if it's something that you're feeling like you're a bit stuck work-wise, maybe you're like I was in a traditional career and feeling trapped and that it's not for you anymore, I can just offer you a little bit of advice and tell you the things that I did to see a difference.
Fantastic. Well, I will stick the links to the Facebook group, to Helen's LinkedIn page, and to her website in the show notes, so you can go and check those. Helen, that's been a fascinating chat. I'm sure I feel healthier just having had the chat. It'd be nice now if they can open the gym and I can go do the other bit.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I do think it's all just about knowledge. It is all just, you don't know until you know. So I'm really pleased you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, if you've enjoyed this show, go and check out some of the previous shows. As I said, you can find them on all the major podcast platforms. It'd be great if you could give us a review as well. That's always helpful. It just gets the show exposed to some more people, and hopefully we can help somebody else along the way, as I'm hoping we've helped you today. Follow us on social media. We'd like to hear your comments. So yes, without further ado, Helen, thank you very much for your time today. It's much appreciated. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we will catch you next time. Bye now.
Thanks.
If you'd like to submit your business to be on the show, simply email spotlight@thepodstation.co.uk or message us on social media at The Podstation on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter.